My father side of the family, they suffered from a lot of chronic diseases, mostly diabetes. He's got 7 siblings. He and his 7 siblings all developed diabetes. So when I was growing up, it was more of an inevitability. I started to get intrigued by the idea of going into medicine to see if there were ways to prevent this as it ran in families.
It's an early morning at DaVita, a dialysis center in Pomona that Dr. Barnes oversees. The center is already filled with patients who will spend up to 9 hours a week on the life-saving machines. African Americans are twice as likely to be diagnosed with diabetes as their white counterparts, and 3 times as likely to suffer end-stage renal failure.
The number 1 cause of patients ending up on dialysis or developing kidney disease is diabetes, and the number 2 cause is high blood pressure. And if you look at those 2 combined, the prevalence in the African American community is huge. And the most concerning part about it is it's mostly preventable if we implement lifestyle changes.
Another crucial reset: the medical profession needs to regain the trust of many in the African American community, lost through a history of high-profile betrayals, including the notorious Tuskegee experiment, which began in 1932 and didn't end until 40 years later.
The medical community historically doesn't have a good reputation amongst African American communities because trust was betrayed in the past. But I believe that having more and more African American doctors trained is important. I also believe that those African American doctors coming back to communities that are where African American patients are is also important. When I came out of the military, I knew I wanted to practice in an underserved community where I'd come from. So that's why it was a no-brainer for me to come back to a place like Pomona, where I grew up not too far from here, to really try and change from within.